more than half of the people here. So I think we're going to start. And if more people come in.
So, Marge, I have a question. When
Yes.
do you think we're going to be meeting in person?
That's one of the things I want to bring up.
Okay.
So Chelsea, I don't have a waiting room list here, but people are coming in. Can I talk to you on Tuesday, and maybe you can share my screen, or I can tell you what I'm seeing and see why I couldn't get any way to sign in.
Yeah, we can look at what you were seeing together.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
totally
All
sure.
right. Thank you very much. And so we've got unlimited time, right? So we have an hour if we wish it. And I gave everybody an email, and if they didn't get it, thank you. If we didn't get it, we're okay. So let me get started by answering Martha's comment. At this point, we don't know. I talked to Josh, who is the administrator, and I said, when are you going to open the offices? Because they're still not in the offices. And he said they're going to start next week, but it's going to be a slow thing. My guess would be September.
Don't you want to
and September, the holidays are right there. So I definitely August will be meeting this way.
Oh, okay. Because that's when I present that lost shtetl. And then Carol, I believe, I want you to know we're still here September. And then October. Yeah. Okay, that'll be.
So I will find out more. Sherry, very briefly, and there's Steve walking around. Steve had a medical emergency this week. And so Sherry and Steve are joining us. We're happy to see that Steve is walking around and doing well. And we wish you the best. I'm sure he will get better.
Thank you.
I guess we're not getting anybody else, but this is pretty much everybody. I had a lot of people who said they couldn't come. So I'm going to just very briefly talk to you about the author. He was born in 1948 and he died last year, pretty much almost just after this book was published. And you saw that he was updating it a little bit because he talked about COVID. He was the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom since 2013. He was made a peer of the realm. So he sat in the House of Lords. He was a visiting professor all over the United States and Israel. He had 16 honorary degrees. He won three times the best Jewish nonfiction book of the year from the Jewish Book Council. And this year he won for the best, this book was the best Jewish book. And another of his books was also nominated. He obviously had this Covenant and Conversation commentaries in England. And I'm wondering if we can get some of his podcasts. We might be able to get some of his podcasts. So very briefly, that is who the Rabbi Sachs is and was. He was a young man and extremely well respected in the world of religion, no matter what religion it was. So Ed has a mouthful of food. And Ed said
easily swallowed.
Ed said he was going to start lead off the discussion in any way he had. I did send comments and questions, some from Sherry and some from me, that I thought would pique your interest in the book. It was not that I expected these questions to be answered during the discussion. It was a way of you thinking about the book as you were reading it. I have had a comment from Anne and from Felicia about the fact that we should only have a few questions. This is all new to us and we're just trying it out. So as this day goes on, as we discuss this book, if you want to comment on that as well. I've never done it in this way before, but people really seem to want to have something to goad their reading, to help their reading. So however it comes out, I hope that that works. So Ed, I'm leaving it up to you.
Okay, I will try to be provocative and short. Okay, or short and provocative,
Well,
whichever
the
you prefer.
provocative, I expected. The short, I'm not so sure.
Okay, anyway, I really like this book. I really like this guy, not because he's Jewish, not because he's a rabbi. I really like his philosophy. He's a really cool modern philosopher. And I mean, the difference between 19th century philosophy and 20th century, and now we get to this guy who expresses my own feelings, which are those of a communitarian. And that's this whole we society instead of me society, people being empathetic. I personally believe we should tax the rich and redistribute the wealth and take care of everybody because we are all humans together. Now, having said that, there's nothing Jewish about this. And I have had a previous discussion with my brother, the rabbi, okay? And I brought up this very issue. I said, I said, it's really a great book. I really like the guy, but there was nothing Jewish about it. And he starts telling me how Judaism is very adaptable. And so now this is Jewish, okay? It wasn't when, they were throwing Spinoza, excommunicating Spinoza from the Dutch Jewish group. But now this is Jewish. Somebody, does something that everybody says, "Ooh, that's cool." It's Jewish. So that's my provocative statement. So I wonder what everybody else thinks about that.
Ed, did your brother, the rabbi, give you the line, "Imena nili mili, imrak atzma imani"? If I am only for myself, what am I? That's Jewish. And that's
I know. But have people really followed that? Okay.
But ancient Judaism. I mean, it's been in Judaism for thousands of years.
And it's been in Christianity, and it's been in Islam also. It's been in all the. In fact, it was you found a little bit of that in paganism even. So I mean, that's just cool philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
But when I was growing up and going to Hebrew school, they didn't teach me any of this stuff.
Yeah, well. So, Linda, you're.
I was just going to say, what about tikkun olam? I mean, repair of the world. That's a similar concept, it seems to me.
Well, I think what we need to do is try to concentrate on the book now. At one point, I thought I might have to leave the discussion, and I pulled a Janet Zell, and that's my book. But I kind of tried to condense it into these statements that I sent to you guys. And again, these are not the only questions, and these are not, and looking at questions doesn't tell us what you feel as your own philosophy or what you feel about morality and the we against us. And I know Anne has something to say about that. But what I'm trying to say is that if George Orwell says, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what to do that they don't want to hear. And that where there is no shared morality, there is no society. Are we getting to a point where our society is so fractured that morality is so it's not universally accepted? Then how do we continue? And to me, that's kind of what this rabbi is talking about. How do we continue to help the people that need the help when we are only thinking about ourselves as a society? So I would like your comments, but I'd also like you to comment on the fact of whether you do want us to have questions to think about as we read these books. That is an additional burden on the person who is reading the book. And what
May I
happened to
offer
Martha?
something?
Where, oh, there she is. All right, so yeah, who said who wanted,
Linda.
was that
Me?
Linda? Okay,
Linda, I am coming from a place of not reading the book. I don't have things that I could contribute to the conversation about the book, but I would like to say that I very much appreciated Sherry's and Marge's questions. There were 8 questions, and what caught me was number 2, what do we do now to remedy this problem? That prompted me to read the book, looking for solutions. And I will read this book because I will make time for it. I will prioritize it. And this past month, I was dealing with a death in the family. But I do feel that the questions are important, that we tackle these challenges that the author puts out to us. And I think it's valuable to get to the core of the purpose of the book.
okay, thank you for that. Who else would like to contribute?
Now
you're
I
there.
can see everyone. I deleted the app and put you back on again. I
Okay,
got tired
good.
of looking at myself.
All right, Marvin. Marvin's our new member. This is his second meeting. Okay, Marv.
I just finished reading No Ordinary Time by Doris Kearns Goodwin. It was about FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt
Great book.
during the later Depression and World War II years. And what was the main theme was how brilliant FDR and Eleanor were as a team in slowly knitting a very disparate country together into a unified force. And I contrast it with our most recent president. And I encourage anyone who hasn't had enough to read to look at that book, because he was just a master at getting the pulse of the whole country, even though on the surface everybody was very, very different. So that would be pointing towards a solution to this problem.
Thank you. And tell me the author again.
Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Yeah, great book.
Great book.
Yeah.
Really great.
All right.
He wrote about Abraham Lincoln too, Team of Rivals. Those was along the same theme.
Even better book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else has, Anne, you ready?
Yeah. Okay, when I last spoke to Marge, and she pointed out that I have some issues with this book. I have read the first half, and I appreciate the book a whole lot more now that I've read the second. But I have questions about this I-we dichotomy, and here's why. Every we has a set of internal values. And, he blames this individualism of the 60s, but I think part of what was happening at that time is that people were challenging the normalized set of values, for themselves, but also for more than themselves. And to look at this, just from the perspective of being female, the norm that the we, and this is like Jewish and non-Jewish, was that, I should be barefoot and pregnant and a piece of chattel for somebody who could treat me well or not, because I didn't have an alternative way of making a living. So, there are good reasons to, it is focused on the individual to say, hey, women needed more opportunities and a different status in the world. But it's also a we, in that we need to reorganize our we to treat everyone better. And so I say that because, well, first of all, I was pissed reading for the first half of the book. And second of all, because I think it has to do with looking at our solution. it's not just that we need to focus more on we, but we need to create a we that is actually spreads
Inclusive.
benefits more. And, you know, if that's the problem, then you have, you know, you're looking at different solutions.
Carl? You're muted, Carl. Carl, you're muted. There you go.
One of the main things he talks about is contract and covenant. The I is the contract. We do need the covenant of the we of the group as a role model. And that permeates a lot of the book, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, in our politics, we have a lot of I and no thought of we. That's why we have this great divide right now, I think. But I think that's such an important point that he makes about the I and the we. You've got to do things for yourself so that you can contribute to the we, and the we is the role model for whether it's Judaism or being an evangelist or Christianity or Catholicism is still an important part of our life.
Paula?
One of the questions on the list that I found intriguing was talked about Israel and how Israel has gone from we to I. Before I did say that, I found his point a little bit redundant. And I mean, I didn't need to, I heard about I and we way too many times, but I was totally enthralled with the breadth of his knowledge and his, what he reads. I mean, I thought that was, but anyway, that question about Israel, which was we and now is I, and that made me think. And when Israel was created and was surrounded by 8 hostile Arab countries, and however many there were, that has to be in the situation like that, it has to be a we, because if there's no we, there's never going to be any I's. And now the threat is, there is a threat there, but it's not the same. It's more internal. And therefore, the country is economically progressive and relatively affluent, and it becomes an I. And that was my thought about, that made me think about external pressures may make a we, but it doesn't mean it's lasting. And so, you know, I thought this book was, I thought he was wonderful. I'd never heard of him before. And I Googled him and, you know, found out his podcasts and, you know, and everything else. And then I found out he just died like right after this book was published. And I'm not sure he finished his final thoughts on what the pandemic has done to the I, we. But external threats, I thought, the question about Israel made me think, oh yeah, okay. And it made me kind of understand them a little more. And so I found, you know, Linda, read the book. You need to read the book. Yeah,
I will do that.
Yeah.
Sherry, you want to talk about this a little?
Well, oh shoot. I passed the buck over to other people because we were going to go on a trip, and then I'm really worn out from Steve having a seizure and being in the hospital for 2 days and a night. So I'm kind of exhausted. I thought the book was very important. I think it's, the thought of COVID coming up. I mean, he probably could have written a whole book on, you know, a post-COVID society, which I'm sure other people are going to write afterwards. But I recommended the book. I thought it was excellent. I thought that it's. I agree also with Anne that it's true that the 60s were very important. But I see his point of view that maybe that the root of a lot of this, goes back to the 60s, and I'm not sure there's any real answer on where to go from here. And I was hoping other people had some thoughts after reading the book and other things.
Diane.
Well, first I'd like to say I wish I'd had this book in the 90s when I was sorting through those philosophers, all distilled into one paragraph per philosopher. Excellent. I thought that part was excellent. The solution has always been solved. I mean, this type of solution generally has been solved by having a common enemy. And I'm not suggesting that we find a common enemy. I don't know what the alternative is. The alternative is for everybody to go back to religion. That didn't work so well and still doesn't work so well. If you see what's going on in the headlines about anti-Semitism, people don't forget. I don't know. I don't really know. I haven't totally finished the book. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, but I haven't come up with a solution except the common enemy, which is the elementary solution. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, I'm open.
I have a real quickie. We do have a common enemy. It's called climate change, and it's going to end civilization. And unless we get together and think about each other to combat that enemy, we will die.
As 2 weeks ago, people did in this city.
Yes.
Because, not that the city didn't try, but not enough. There was too much I and not enough we.
And you know, someone in Northwest Towers next to the temple did pass away.
Wow.
Yeah,
So-
it was one of the
Oh,
high rises.
there was an I we right there that
Yeah.
was just clear. And Ed's got it right. That is our common enemy. And I get it with the young, I don't even know what to say. What happened here, could have, they tried, but it wasn't enough, and they didn't even think about it, and it wasn't planned for. And we need a lot of thinking about this. So,
Diane?
Well, that is a very sophisticated issue. And I'm not sure that I think the idea of climate change is so large, Ed, that I don't think many people understand the significance of it or say that, well, this is for the future, not my problem. That's the way I've seen it viewed in the last 15 years. We've been talking about this for what, 15, almost 20 years, 20 years. Climate change, people have been ringing the bell on this. People aren't paying attention. The average citizen is not paying attention.
I think the people in Portland will be paying attention when it's 116 degrees.
Well, but that isn't I don't think people in Portland are exactly the average American.
No.
No, and you're talking Portland, metropolitan Portland. You're not even talking, which now wants to be a part of Idaho.
Yeah.
Anne?
I don't think I don't think it's the people who are not paying attention. I think that we have our politics is not set up to take on the interests that are trying to get us to ignore it. And and this is where the solution to this our divided politics is really critical. We need to all decide that we have some common interest here that is not the same as oil companies or other, companies that aren't taking this seriously. And until we have a means to do that, I think individual people, and not just people in Portland, but, farmers everywhere. I mean, this, climate change is a thing that is causing a lot of problem on our southern borders because those people can't make a living where they used to farm. And, but we, the entrenched interests behind our political money are preventing politics that would address this.
Oh, I lost you. There you are.
There's a really good we going on right now, and that's that's the people who refuse or are hesitant to get the friggin' vaccines. That's we. I mean, and the people who aren't are the people, and they're dying, and they're going to kill other people, and they're the powers that be are trying to say it's a we thing. Don't do it for everybody, and people who won't they're unreachable. And the alternative is they're going to die out. And my hope is they're not going to take anybody else with them. But
right.
I'm now reading these people are entering the hospitals and saying, gee, we wish we knew this. We would have gotten, what crap? What do you mean you knew this? And, and now they feel bad, they feel foolish, but it's too late, dying in hospitals. And there's an we, and how easy, just get the friggin' vaccine, but there we go. So
I want to kind of go back to what Anne was saying, because she kind of, you may not have heard what she said at the very beginning, but since I was with her yesterday and she was telling me how much she did not like this book. And then she said, but I finished the book and now I feel it's better than I thought it was. I felt the same way about Caste. I think we actually talked about that a little bit, that the first third of Caste was very difficult reading, and it turned people off to the importance of the other half of the book. And I think that, and we've been talking about this since, do you remember Nicole, who used to be a member of the book club? Sure. She talked about this for years and years. There is no editing in book publishing anymore.
That's my mantra.
And I know it's yours and it's mine too. I cannot tell you how many book reviews I write on Goodreads that say we needed 50 less pages in this book. I'm reading, I don't know if you ever read The Genie and the Golem and the Genie, which was out, the sequel just came out, and I'm reading it now and it's wonderful. But I want to tell you something. She describes every building in New York, every period of history that she's covering. And if I lived in New York, that might be interesting to me, but I don't. And so I don't want to, it's something I don't need to read to further the story. And that's what an editor would do, and give me 50 less pages. Why are books now 400 pages that used to be 350 pages? All books used to be 325 to 350 pages. Now they're all 400 pages because nobody's cutting it out where it needs to be succinct, and it makes us not feel the same way about the book that the author intended.
Maybe they feel guilty because they're charging so much for the books, so they figure they want to give you more maybe book for your book.
I think that's a very important thing for us to read as literature, as a book club, is that we have to sometimes slog through the stuff that should have been cut out in order to get to the beauty of what is left.
Yeah, there were too many IWs in this book. There could have been a few fewer. And
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
In fact, it was making me angry. Oh, not again! I got it. I got it. But anyway.
Well, Paula, just in case you didn't get it, especially when my brain goes, okay, oh yeah, I remember you said that on page 1 or 5 or whatever. Yeah.
Well, after the 10th time, I figured, I get the point, but.
Oh, by the way, that reminds me, Sue Alpert, who is, I think, listening to us, sent me an email that says that YouTube on Book Talks at Google with the author and with the moderator being Tim Chatwin. So if you look up the rabbi's name on YouTube Book Talks, you might be able to hear him talking.
That was very good. It's about an hour, and Sue told me about it, and it's amazing. You're mesmerized by his kindness, by the words he says, And I figured, why can't they should send this to the politicians and some of the other people? Maybe it'll get something in their brain. But it's just gotten to the point where the more I read this book, I figured we've got to pass this book around, especially to the higher ups, and maybe they'll get something in it. But it was very emotional, very good, and I enjoyed that. So,
well, one question I have, and this follows from Martha's comment, is, do they not know, or are they just bought and paid for? I mean, and that's one of the real problems in moving from this I to a we is I don't think they don't know. I mean, there are, there are the Marjorie Taylor Greens, and it's possible that she doesn't know. People really who are in a position to actually have a different, take a different stand. I think they know. And, I mean, it's been a mystery to me why you would think that you were powerful if you were doing things that you knew were not the right thing for our future, but people are doing it. And well,
I think you said it. They're bought and paid for. I don't think there's any question. They're bought and paid for. If we ever got political reform in terms of campaign reform, things could be different, perhaps, if they weren't dependent on these companies for all of their campaign funding. But people, I hate to use the word, are eye-centered. I mean, we all are eye-centered. Look at a baby and how long it takes a baby to realize he isn't, the only thing in the world. But politicians, politicians are also, they're bought and paid for, and there are very few people who are not. So I think that this book is important. I think it's in the same way that caste is important. But when I talk about caste,
it was Linda, and she was calling you.
I do think that the caste is a vital book, but that people need to know that they can be a little less conscious of the first third of the book, perhaps, to get to the part that touches their hearts. And she touches your mind in the first half, and she touches your heart in the second half. And I think that's what's happening with writing. So any other comments about this before we talk about next month, and then maybe take a little bit more, hi Sue, a little bit more time to talk about when and if we want to meet again. Paula.
No, I was waving.
You were just fixing your computer.
I was waving at Sue.
Oh, anybody else? Ed, you have something to say?
Well, I read a little of something that I wrote down. It says, a society that values truth can build trust and share a stronger moral framework. So, I mean, what I read about this book, there were so many things that go, yeah, it's so simple. What's wrong? And they talk about the Jewish and Christian traditions teaching humans that we're not really mere machines, but we're free to evaluate anything and everything in the world around us and to make the decisions that we wish. And this is a freedom that we have, but yet I don't understand. By reading this book, it made me feel like, look how easy it is. Why can't we do it? And again, there is no rhyme, no reason as to why people act the way they do. And the morality, to me, I kept looking at that word and I figured, it's so powerful, but yet what can we do about it? And then another thing that says, to sustain a moral community, we must respect the truth. What's the truth? I mean, we've been lied to so many times that I don't even know they know what truth is, or they're lying or whatever, so.
Very postmodern, as he says repeatedly.
But if you have a chance to see that YouTube that Sue mentioned, it's powerful. As I said, it's very, very good. And I just close it up and figured, yeah, why don't we go and do that?
Carl?
Yes, I find this book is reaching our generation. It's not reaching generations down. I mean, I have seen an essay from a college application from somebody who was brought up in a family that has read Jonathan Sacks for years. And that essay just exemplified what he has to say. But how many in that generation today, or even up to age 50 or 55, have even thought about this? That's a problem. I mean, we're thinking about it, but how many people can we reach out to it? And that's why we need the role model and the congregations, or whatever you want to call it, and both the congregation and the contract of life. That was what I said. But I've seen a strong point in that.
Marvin?
When's it going to affect business enough, i.e. the climate change you're talking about, that they're going to have to take a stand and really come out and set a precedent for people?
You hear, sweetheart?
Yeah, I think the conservatives, the very conservatives, people may disagree with me, but that's okay. I think they think that the Make America Great movement, which wants to go back to the 1950s, was when there was a we. It was after World War II, and there was the afterglow of fighting a common enemy. And there was a great deal of social equality due to the GI Bill and progressive taxes and such. And
For men. For men. For men. For men.
I couldn't understand.
For men. She said
for men. Okay, right. Point taken. Like I said, a lot of people won't agree with me. But I think that the conservatives are nostalgic for what they perceive as a we time. And that may be a bridge that we can cross somehow to create a broader consensus. So that's my 2-bit for men.
Linda.
Well, I can't agree with that for the point that Paula was making. It was perfectly fine if you were a white man. And that's what my view is, that's what the Make America Great Again people are. They want to go back to the time when white men were in charge. White men knew what they were doing.
And that's what caste is all about.
And that's what caste is about. So I respectfully disagree.
Well, let's talk a minute or so about next month, which Martha has undertaken to read The Lost Shtetl. And I had trouble with this book because I think I read it in the wrong frame of reference. It is, and you'll probably say, Marge, why the heck did it take you that long to figure it out? It is very ironic. It is very humorous in a different kind of a way. It's very much like Jonathan Foer's books. So look at it because it's crazy. A shtetl that literally didn't know there was a Second World War. They were so isolated, and how they lived how their society was, and how they reacted when they suddenly were thrust into modern society. It is an interesting book, and I think that because it is fiction, we're now at a book in thing where questions may be slightly different. And Martha, I'm just going to leave it up to you as to how if you want people to look at certain aspects of the book ahead of time, you can send me the list of questions and I will send them on to spur them to thinking like it did for Linda, to spur them into thinking about the book. So that's next month, which is, believe it or not, August, which I can't believe. As I said, the temple office is opening up slowly. We had at least 200 people at Shabbat on the Plaza on Friday night. It was just absolutely fabulous. They clearly are opening up for the holidays completely. So I think, we're not going to worry about that. But maybe because the holidays are very early this year, what Anne told me that Yom Kippur is the 17th, Anne? Of September?
15th.
The 15th. So you can see it's it's in the second week of September. Maybe we can do something outdoors or find a place where we can sit around and have a little picnic and talk or whatever. And I'll kind of see if we can do something at the park across the street from the temple or something like that. But
March, in September, we have a speaker, remember?
Oh, okay, that's right. So we do want to have, we want to be as tight as possible. And so we will, Linda, are you doing that book?
Carol Edelman is doing it, but maybe I should, and we can talk about that.
Okay, okay.
Is that on September 12th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just saying.
What's the name of that book?
4 is my 75th birthday. Just saying. Okay.
Mazel tov. All right. So next month is the Lost Shtetl. We will meet again like this. Martha will send something to me that I will send out. And I have been doing blind CCs to everybody, but if I send out, the next email I send out will have everybody's name and I think and contact. I will send it out so everybody has a contact list.
Can you tell me the book that we're reading in September? Because the list you sent me, all my emails were deleted.
We're reading, I want you to know we're still here.
Yeah.
I want you to know we're still here by FOER, F-O-E-R. Yes, Carl.
When you send out that list, could you include the existing link to Zoom?
I will break my ironclad rule that we're adults, and I will send out a link every month. I'm sorry, it did not. This group of adults is not capable of cutting and pasting and putting something on their homepage.
You know, if you take a little Post-it note and you stick it on a calendar and move it month to month, it works just fine.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
So
you can put the message, you can put the email in your archive and it stays there.
Well, I know there's a million ways of doing it, but this group is not that group. My knitting group is exactly the same. We send out the link every time. But I will do that, and I'm going to meet with Chelsea and get this solved. I'm glad I finally figured out I could do it myself, and we did it with time to spare. So I want to thank everybody for coming.
I would like to just put in one plug for a movie that we watched last night that was on HBO called Oslo, which is excellent. I don't know if anyone has seen that yet. I'm sorry.
It was a play. Before it was a movie.
So it was on HBO. Is that what you said?
It's on HBO, just called Oslo, and the acting is fabulous.
And it's a true story, which makes it even more fascinating.
Another hand. Who else had something to say? All right. At that point, thank you all for coming. We had a great discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting.
Take care of yourself.
See you next month.
Yeah, Steve, stay well.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, it's still here.